Good day. Today I'm going to talk about group policy objects. First thing we want to do is going to start administrative tools, group policy management. As you look over here, you can see there's a list of items. I'm going to expand the domain controller. This folder here called domain controller is what you call an organizational unit. This over here is what you call a domain. And there's also something called sites. These three folders can hold group policy objects. The first one we're going to talk about is the COSTAT domain. As you can see, it's linked to this GPO called default domain policy. That's this. And the group policy object has a list of all GPO. If you check the group policy inheritance, you can see that they just have one because it's actually linked just with one GPO. If you click domain controller, it's linked with one GPO, which is default domain controller policy. I shall expand it here. However, when you click group policy inheritance, you can see that there are actually two GPO inside here. One is called default domain controller policy, and the next one is called default domain policy. And you can see that there is an order of precedence, 1 and 2. Basically, what happens here is that this domain controller inherits settings from the default domain policy. This is more important when the two GPO has different settings for the same configuration. I will talk a little later about what are the configuration. If you don't want your organizational unit to inherit any other GPO, you can simply right click and click block inheritance. So what happens here is when you block the inheritance, you can see it's no longer inheriting anything from the default domain policy. However, if we right click and remove the tick from block inheritance, we can see it's starting to inherit back from default domain policy. So you can see now there's two GPO inside here. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create some users and we're going to create some new GPO inside an organizational unit that we're going to create. Right now we're going to create a new organizational unit. So what we're going to do is right click on the domain, click new organizational unit, and just put in a name. I'm going to call this one Livid Leon Settings and click OK. As you can see, it's right here. There's nothing in it, and I'm going to create two child organizational unit. To do that, you right click and you click new organizational unit again, and I'll just call it Livid Leon Admin. I'm going to right click again and select new organizational unit, and I'm going to call this one Livid Leon User. As we can see, in the group policy inheritance, it already inherited the default domain policy because this GPO is actually linked to the domain, which means it was going to apply to every single organizational unit that is created here. And as you could look at this here, you could see the icon for an organizational unit. And these two are child organizational units. What we're going to do now is create a new GPO. To do that, we're going to right click and click create a GPO in this domain and link it here. What we're going to do with this GPO, we're going to disable the Windows Update function. This is important sometimes because many times the Windows update will actually occur at times you don't really want it to occur. So what we're going to do, we're going to call this no Windows update. We're going to click OK. As we can see, it's here. And if you click Livid Leon admin or the Livid Leon user, you can actually see that the no Windows update GPO is actually here. And it's actually of higher precedence than the default domain policy, which is this. So what we're going to do now, we're going to we could close this off. This is basically what settings that is applied to it. So right now we're going to right click and click edit. This is going to bring up the group policy manager editor. So when we're looking at it, there's two main things you can select from: the computer configuration and the user configuration. Basically what the computer configuration is, this settings is going to be applied to any computer that is on the domain that the user logging to, despite what user logging. So if you have 10 different users and 10 different users logging to this computer, it will apply this settings. The user configuration is actually a little different. This is actually applied to the actual user. So despite what computer the user log on to, the settings is going to be applied to that user. So what we're going to do is expand policies under user configuration, administrative templates, Windows components, and Windows update. As we can see, we're going to remove access to use all Windows update feature. So we're going to right click, go into properties, and we're going to click enable. Okay, we have enabled this setting. So we're going to click X. We'll go down into the group policy objects, and we're going to click no Windows update. And as we can see, in the Windows component / Windows update, we have removed access to use all Windows update features. And this is going to be applied to the Livid Leon admin and the Livid Leon user. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create a new GPO to restrict the user from accessing control panel. So we're going to right click, and the same process again, create a new GPO. So I'm going to name this restrict control panel and click OK. So as you can see now, this one takes the highest precedence. So I'm going to right click, edit, I'm going to policies, administrative templates, I'm going to click control panel, I'm going to right click on prohibit access to the control panel, click properties, and click enable. And as if you check it right here in the group policy objects, you can see the policy right here. So what we're going to do now, we're going to right click on Livid Leon admin and click block inheritance. Doing that will block the no Windows update inheritance, and it's going to block the default domain policy, so which basically give the Livid Leon admin more free range than the Livid Leon user. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to restore this down, and I'm going into Start, Administrative Tools, Active Directory, User and Computers. There are many ways to add a user, and one of the methods is to use the Active Directory, User and Computers. As you can see here, I have the Live in Leon organizational unit. This user is created in parts with this domain here, but I'm going to add specific user that is actually a member of Live in Leon admin and Live in Leon user, so the GPO can have effect on them. So right now we have our Live in Leon admin. This is a child organizational unit. I'm going to add a user to it. So I'm right click, I'm clicking new, click user. I'm just going to call this Jack, last name Snowman, and for the user login name I'm going to put this. I'm going to click next and put in a password. I'm going to take off this option and click password never expire, click next and click finish. Now this is a Live in Leon user. This is actually another child organizational unit, and this is the parent organizational unit. So I'm going to right click, click new, click user. I'm going to call this one Jill Snowgirl. Click next. I'm going to put in a password here as well. You can't leave this blank because the domain user must have a password. So I'm taking off this option. I will enable this and this. Click next, finish. And there we go. The user has already been created. So what we could do, we could just simply click the domain name here, and this is actually going to tell you and give you some description of what each of the folder is. So let me just expand this a little bit. You can see that with this icon here, this is an organizational unit. The domain and controller is also an organizational unit. And as we can see, Live in Leon admin is an organizational unit as well, and the Live in Leon user is an organizational unit, because these are the child and this is the parent here. And that's basically it. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this open. Before I log on to Windows 7, I'm going to right click the Live in Leon admin and remove the block inheritance. So now we can see it will be inheriting from the default domain policy GPO and the new Windows Update GPO. And the Live in Leon user is going to be inherited from these three GPO. Everything seems okay. So right now I'm going to log on to Windows 7 with the Live in Leon admin organizational unit user, which is Jack Snowman. So I'm going to log in here. I'm going to switch the user, click other user, put in the domain name first, / Jack Snowman. I'm going to put in the password. Everything seems to be loaded properly, so we're going to start. Right click on my computer, click properties, click Windows Update. And as you can see, the setting has been disabled. To see what other GPO has been applied, you could go into Start, type in rsop.msc and click Close. Wait until this process. Right click on User Configuration and click Properties. And as you can see, the group policy object that has been applied was a No Windows Update. and the default domain policy. So what we're going to do now, we're going to log on with another user called Joe, the snow girl, in Windows Vista. So we're going to switch user, other user, enter the domain name, put in the password, okay. Okay, Windows Vista has successfully loaded. So what we're going to do now, we're going to check to see what setting has been affected. As we know, we has disabled the control panel. So any settings or any shortcut that is linked to the control panel is going to be disabled. So we're going to check that right now. So let's go to Start. Right click on my computer, click Properties. Okay, Restriction, which means it's working very well. So let's go and try something else. Right click, network and sharing. Wow, another restriction. So as we can see, any item that is leading to the control panel is not going to work. Again, let's go to Start, put in rsop.msc. We're going to click it. Close. So we'll right click on user configuration and click properties. As we can see, we have 3 GPO in effect: the default domain policy, the no Windows update, and the restrict control panel. So this was just to show you how inheritance works. So the 3 GPO you see in here has all been inherited by the Livid Lion user organizational unit. So here we go. You have successfully applied GPO to your user. And thank you for watching.